Greetings and salutations, my name is OJ as always, and welcome back to what I believe is part 4 of the aptly and horribly named DBD-a-thon, where I cover every single killer from Trapper all the way up to Springtrap in the hit game Dead by Daylight. In these videos I'll go over the characters' perks, their general gameplay, their design, my least and most favourite cosmetics for those killers, as well as simply reading their bios because I'm not a lore guy. Oh, and obviously my own general opinions and thoughts on said killers. And today we're going to be talking about the woman whose balancing has ruined this game. Well, not ruined this game. Her balancing, she needs proper balancing. I don't know how they'll ever do it, but one day I hope they do it. The woman who has sat at the top of the food chain, at the top of every tier list you've ever seen, that being Sally Smithson, also known as the Nurse. And with every video that I have made thus far, that being 3 of them, I would like to start by reading her in-game bio, that being, Sally Smithson came to town with dreams of children's feet and laughter in a wooden home built by her husband Andrew. But life came not with smiles, but with plans of destruction. Andrew worked as a lumberjack, a job with its perils. One day, Andrew's foreman had to pay Sally a visit, forever changing her life. She was alone. Without food on the table and no other option, Sally had to find a way, but the only employment she could get was at the Crotus Pren Asylum, which is a map in Dead by Daylight. Nobody sought employment there unless they were in dire need, just like Sally. Without any education, she started at the bottom, doing the hard night shift. Over the years, her mind had reached its limits, 2 decades of seeing horrid things that violate the eyes, memories that are replayed every night, being abused verbally and physically by people without limits. Sally saw insanity from the outside, just to catch it herself. Finally, she could not take it anymore, and concepts of purification emerged inside of her. She did what she felt was necessary. As the morning staff arrived one day in September, they found over 50 dead patients, lifeless, in their bed, along 4 staff members, also dead. Only Sally had survived the night, but her mind was gone, rocking back and forth non-stop. Exactly what had happened is only known by her, but it seems that some of them had been choked as they had marks around their neck. They got her in an ambulance, but that ambulance never reached the hospital. It was found crashed in a nearby wood, all of the staff dead, and Sally nowhere to be found. Now, something I should mention on top of her existing lore is that, if I'm not mistaken, I'm not sure, I couldn't really find an exact date or time of when she was a nurse, but to my knowledge, she was a nurse during the World War I era, so what, 1910s, 1920s? She said she did 20 years, right? So she would have died, quote unquote, in the 1930s. I can only imagine what sort of physical abuse she received from the other staff at the asylum, and that's not including any that she received from the actual patients themselves. I think Nurse is actually quite an interesting character lore-wise because she was basically our first, well, she wasn't the first tragic character per se. I'd say the original of the OG3 of Wraith, Trapper and Billy. Billy and Wraith have quite sort of sad backstories per se. I mean, sure, they're not perfect, but they are still kind of sad, especially Billy, poor sod. Get locked up in a brick home with a single window. Not fun. But yeah, with Nurse's lore discussed, we move on to her gameplay and her power, which I should also mention, she was the first ever DLC killer added to the game. And for a first DLC killer, she completely broke the game and is still the best killer in the entire game without fail. There's no competition. I don't think anyone could ever compete with her unless they decided one day, hey, let's just nerf her into the ground. And why is that, you may ask? It's because of her power. Her power allows her to charge up a blink. Said blink allows her to phase, or like sort of teleport forward, and phase through almost all objects. No, I believe it is all objects. She can go through walls, go through floors, go through ceilings, go through pallets, go through loops. She can go through everything, which is the exact reason why she is the strongest. She gets 2 charges of this blink. The first one can be charged up to go quite a decent distance, so she has good mobility, and the second one's a little bit shorter, but it allows you to sort of correct yourself if you mess up the first one. Now, Dead by Daylight's general gameplay is killer chases me, I run round loop. Nurse ignores it. Nurse ignores the core gameplay of the game. She ignores the chase. I run round loop, Nurse will teleport in front of you and hit you. I throw down a pallet to slow her down, she teleport through pallet and hit you. She, fundamentally, I think Nurse will always be the best. Unless we just decide one day she has one blink, and every time she blinks she's slowed down by 50% and she can't even injure someone. Like, I don't see a universe where she's not the best, because she fundamentally just doesn't apply. She doesn't play by the same rules as any other killer. That's why Nurse mains are so scary, because I mean, my gameplay's in the background, right? I'm going to admit, obviously I'm not very good at Nurse on console. I played as her for the first time on PC, right? And as you can see from the gameplay in the background, I did pretty decently. Now, there is a second clip in this video, and in that clip I used an endgame build, a build specifically designed for making the endgame as miserable for the survivors as possible. I didn't even get to use the build. I was basically perkless, and do you know what happened? I walked out of it with 3 out of 4 kills. I would have gotten the 4th one if the survivor hadn't found the hatch. I absolutely dominated that game. No shadow of a doubt. I don't want to big myself up too much. I'm not the best Nurse player at all, but it goes to show how ridiculously strong she is that I used a build designed for the endgame and didn't even get to use it because I killed everyone too quickly. That is some insane work. The Nurse is a mind-boggling killer. Since her debut, she has been number 1. No shadow of a doubt. And 9th anniversary is coming around soon. And, yep, she's still number 1. She fundamentally breaks the game. Loops are not a thing for her. And I don't think anyone will ever be better than her. Some bold statements here, I'm aware. The closest we ever got was Blight, who in a similar vein can ignore loops because of the way his ping-pong ball bounce into wall ability works. I also think the Tokyo Ghoul fella, Ken Kaneki, I swear that's his last name. If it's not, I'm very sorry. He came pretty close as well. He was like 2nd best, 3rd best when he first released because he was just insane. But even him, he weren't better than Nurse. Nurse was still the best. It's unbelievable. I don't think they're ever going to beat her. It's just, she's a mind-boggling killer. How the hell was she the first? I mean, I'm all for like setting a power ceiling, right? Just as a spoiler, I play a lot of gacha games. I play like Honkai Star Rail, Zenless Zone Zero, and in those games they suffer power creep where each subsequent character is stronger than the last. Dead by Daylight, by some miracle, has never experienced power creep. It's experienced feature creep, where each subsequent killer seems to be more and more complex to the point that it's almost absurd at times. Like, look at Vecna. His power, he's got 4 powers in one. Like, just one of those powers would have been a power for one of the original first year killers, right? But Nurse is so strong, she set the power ceiling and no one's ever come close to beating her. And weirdly, that's both a bad thing and a good thing, because it's a bit stagnant because she's always been the best for 9 years. But on the same hand, at least there's no one even worse than her, right? It's a kind of trade-off. You got good and some bad. But hey ho, with her very, very over-the-top gameplay discussed, I would like to move on to her teachable perks. Now, the first of Nurse's perks is aptly called a Nurse's Cooling, with a description that reads as such: unlocks potential in one's aura reading ability. The auras of survivors who are healing or being healed are revealed to you when they are within a 20, 24, or 28 meter range, respective of the perk's level. It has flavor text reading as such. Still attached to the fragments of her past life, she is drawn to those in need of help. Now, this perk is pretty good. I don't think it's bad, it's not great, it's just pretty good. It's really good on specific killers, such as Tokyo Ghoul fella, Ken Kaneki. It's really good on him because he inflicts deep wound, and if I remember rightly, deep wound is technically counted as healing yourself, so you get revealed by this perk. I'm not 100% sure on that, but either way it would work because he, well, injures you when he gives you a deep wound. So, same goes for the Legion, by the way. It's even better on Legion because you're able to so easily injure the entire survivor squad. And, you know, it's pretty good information perk, though I will admit, by the time you are within the meter range, they know you're coming, right? But it's still, you know, pretty good perk. No problems with it. I don't see how it could be better. It's just been pretty decent for its entire lifespan. Nothing wrong with it. Her second perk is called Strider, with a description reading as such. You are acutely sensitive to the breathing of your prey. Breathing of survivors in pain is 30, 40 or 50% louder, and regular breathing is 15, 20 or 25% louder, respective of the perk's level. With flavor text reading, if you don't stop and catch your breath, she will. This perk, to my knowledge, is only good on a single killer, which is Spirit, because Spirit's entire power revolves around her needing to hear things. So if the survivor's breathing is louder, that makes playing Spirit easier. I've never seen anyone use Strider on anyone but Spirit. So it's one of them perks which is really, really niche, but it's really good on a specific killer. Though, then again, I don't actually even know what would be considered... Would it be considered good on Spirit? I mean, it sounds like it would be, right? Who knows? Maybe a bunch of Spirit mains are going to come kill me for saying that. But, hey-ho. Yeah! Anyways, on to the next perk. Said next perk being Thanatophobia, with a description reading as such. Their courage fades in the face of undeniable mortality. For each injured, dying, or hooked survivor, all survivors receive a penalty of 1, 1.5, or 2% to repair, sabotage, and totem cleansing speeds, obviously respective of the perk's level. If there are 4 injured, dying, or hooked survivors, there is an additional 12% penalty to repair, sabotage, and totem cleansing speeds, with flavor text that reads as such. She plays with us and revels in our pain. Again, just like Nurse's Calling, this perk is really, really good on killers that can injure people very, very quickly or often. So this perk is usually a go-to on the Legion, because it's quite rare that you would be playing against Legion and not be injured at some point or time. I've also seen a lot of people use it on Plague, because obviously the way Plague's power works is that after a certain amount of time from infection, you become broken, which is permanent injured. So if the entire survivor team is permanently injured, because they don't want to give you your, you know, your very, very strong killing power, then they all have to suffer with a 14% penalty to basically any interaction that isn't healing. So, yeah, it's a decent enough perk. I'm quite fond of it on, you know, Legion, Plague, etc. But, yeah, Nurse's perks in general are pretty okay. Much better than Wraiths or Trappers. I'm gonna keep slandering Wraith till I die, by the way. His perks are awful, and I will not stop saying that they are terrible. But, well, no, Predator's okay. Predator is okay, but anyways. Moving on to cosmetics, or her design / cosmetics. Now, the Nurse's design, to no one's shock, or maybe it is to your shock, looks like a nurse. What? Oh my god! Yeah, she's designed to look like a World War I, maybe World War II nurse. If my theory, or not theory, but assumption that she is a World War I nurse is correct. Blah, blah, blah. Words are difficult, you know that. It makes sense that her design looks the way it does. It's very clearly akin to a World War I nurse, minus the red cross that a lot of them had on their chests. Mostly due to, I think there's issues around using the Red Cross in media, because obviously it's quite like a thingy symbol. It's a very protected symbol, because it's obviously meant to be a symbol of peace and kindness, like don't shoot a dude that has a red cross on him. So if a killer had a red cross on him, it'd be pretty hypocritical, could get into issues, blah blah blah. But she also has a bag on her head that covers her face. I think that's probably got something to do with the fact that she choked a lot of her victims. So by having a bag on her head that looks, you know, pretty tight around the neck and the face, it indicates that she herself is suffering. And you can tell that by the fact that every single time she does her power, her little teleport, she like groans or whimpers almost, because, well, using her own power hurts her. Otherwise, she looks very dirty. It's a very dirty dress, but that makes sense. And she does look like a creepy nurse. Also bears some resemblance to the nurses. They're not nurses. No, they are nurses from Silent Hill, which I'll throw up an image on screen if I'm right. If I'm not, if I don't throw up an image, then I was wrong and I'm an idiot and should be shunned. But with her basic design covered, I'd like to move on to her cosmetics. And as always, for those who need a refresher, I will cover my least favourite and favourite skins for each killer. When it comes to least favourites, I'm not allowed to pick anything below a very rare, as if I could, I would just pick some shitty yellow recolor that makes the nurse's dress blue and say, yep, that's the worst one. No shit. So yeah, limited to very rares or above for the worst skin, and for favourites, I can choose whatever the hell I want because it's my favourite, right? Speaking of my least favourite, we have Fading Fire. I don't know what it is about this skin, but it really doesn't do it for me. I kind of like the upper half, like her face, where it looks like fire extinguisher foam, sort of like hardened on her skin. And I think the blade looks kind of okay, where it's all like molten lava-y, but otherwise I think it's kind of boring. It looks very similar to her base design dress-wise, besides obviously the fire at the bottom. But yeah, otherwise I don't know, something about this skin just kind of looks a little boring. The other contender for worse was the Greek skin, but I don't know, every time I look at this skin I'm just like, wow, I feel absolutely nothing for this. And that is why it is my least favourite. And as usual, before I move on to my favourite skin, I like to give a few honourable mentions to her skin called Bouquet Bonnet, which is part of the current Rift / Battle Pass, whatever you want to call it. I think the skin looks really lovely. I like the idea of her head being like a basket of flowers. I think that's a really, really cool design choice. And I'd also like to give an honourable mention to The Accident, a green rarity skin where it kind of shows us in a way what happened to her when the ambulance in her lore that like carried her away from the asylum, like what happened to her when that crashed. It's a really gruesome skin. I really, really like it. But with those honourable mentions out the way, I'd like to move on to my favourite skin, that being Mother Mercy. Now this skin is unbelievably cool. Like, oh my god, this skin is awesome. It's very, very clearly now a World War I nurse with the gas mask and the general clothing aesthetic. But just the fact that the mask is like broken and torn and you can see like her hair kind of coming out of it, that her leg and part of her arm are like burnt and like the flesh is kind of like torn away. And I really, really like the description of the skin, which I believe says something like something about mustard gas, which is a clear confirmation to me that she's meant to be a World War I nurse. But this skin is just great. It's really gruesome, and I'm gonna throw my hands up and say this. I'd argue this is such a good skin, it could be her base design and I would have no complaints. I think this might almost work better as a base design. Obviously you would have to change her lore to accommodate for the fact that she was a active World War I nurse and not, part of the asylum, but this is such a good design, it could have been her base and I would have no problems whatsoever. But with all of that said, we're already at the end of the video once again. I would like to thank everyone for the positive sort of feedback from the Hillbilly video. I was surprised to basically close my day out. It had like 3 views, and then I wake up in the morning and I've suddenly got 5-6 new subscribers. That video had 40 views. I was like, whoa, where did all this come from? But yeah, that's a really good feeling, and I'm glad to see that people like the video as much as they do. So yeah, thank you for all of the positive feedback, and again, thank you. But with all of that said, this has been the video on the nurse, and yeah, I think the nurse she's going to always be the pinnacle of power in this game until they somehow top her. And if they top her, we should all be very, very scared. But with all of that said, I hope you have a good evening, afternoon, morning, etc. And look forward to my next video on the first licensed killer, that being none other than Michael Myers himself.